What's up, guys? This is the Time Capsule podcast. This is episode 4. My name is BXC23. This is my co-host.
What's up? It's John.
And today we got two guest people that we're going to have being interviewed. I got my buddy Justin with me.
What's going on, guys? I'm Justin. It's nice to meet you all.
And then...
Jake.
Sorry, I didn't really know.
Just Jake works.
Yeah, for sure. And basically, since Jake is a UW, he goes to UW and is a political science major, and lately we've been talking about everything from like We movement to Donald Trump in general to school shootings. So I wanted to get the perspective of Democrat, liberal, and also a Republican, just on both sides, just to see some of the issues. And we got two people for that. So yeah, basically at the beginning we do top 5. We do top 5 segments. So for this one I wanted to do top 5 political just like activists or revolutionaries in general. So since me and John are basically just gonna be the interviewers, we're just add stuff as we go on. Yep. So
I'm gonna check facts. You probably won't hear from me, but if facts need to be checked, I'm gonna be the one checking them.
Reed's the guy.
This is Reed.
This is Reed.
Yeah.
He's our fact checker.
So top 5. You want to start first, Justin?
Yeah, definitely, man. Totally. All right, so for mine, I went with a little mix of revolutionaries and also politicians. It's really in no order, but first, Dr. Benjamin Carson. He's just an all-around amazing. I mean, he's a brain surgeon who
I didn't know him.
You don't know who Benjamin Carson is?
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson?
Yeah. Ran for president.
Presidential
candidate.
Yeah. He's the black dude with the glasses. Very. I don't know.
You said he was a doctor, though?
Yeah, he's a brain surgeon, but he's got he's got a lot of amazing ideas, and a lot of amazing, I really just think he could do a lot with the presidency if he ever won. He's an all-around intelligent guy.
Okay.
My next is Ben Shapiro. I mean, come on,
Some
man.
Bens.
Yeah, some Ben. We're starting it off with 2
Ben
Bens.
Franklin in there.
I should have put him. I should have put him.
Theme, maybe.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro. I mean, come on, man. The dude's got a 300 IQ, pretty much. Like he is an absolute. And you don't need to fact check that because it's
300.
not actual. It doesn't actually have a
Go
300 IQ. That was like a joke. But yeah, I mean, Ben Shapiro, he absolutely rips liberal debaters apart. You just cannot stand up to the guy. He is a walking encyclopedia. Like have you ever watched Ben Shapiro? Any of you guys?
Never.
Ever seen him do any? Have
Yeah.
you? Yeah, he is smarter than the majority of people on this earth. He knows a lot, and
I will give him something. He is most definitely smarter than your average undergrad.
I mean,
I don't know.
That he's always juxtaposed to.
Although Ben Shapiro has never taken an IQ test, or at least never published his results, he has done quite well economically and academically, and he graduated summa cum laude from UCLA, which is really quite an achievement. So,
oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Like I said, the 300 IQ thing was a joke. It was more like kind of like a video game joke, I guess. You guys don't understand
no,
it.
for sure. Yeah.
No, he's smart. I'll concede that.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
very
absolutely.
intelligent.
Yeah, he's absolutely intelligent. And though, some of his views may be radical to some, he argues and debates with facts and statistics. Like, he uses scientifically proven facts and numbers and statistics to back up his arguments, and he argues on policy and not character, which is something that, liberals seem to do a lot in debates. My next is Jordan Peterson. And if you don't know who Dr. Jordan Peterson is, I suggest you check out his YouTube channel. The dude is a genius as well. Him and Ben Shapiro are up there in intelligence, but he's a clinical psychologist, and he really has the human being figured out. He knows people. He knows how people think. He knows why they think certain ways. He's an extremely intelligent individual who. So in Canada, they had this bill. I think it's called the C-16. I want to say it's the C-16 bill.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and that bill made it illegal to not call somebody by their preferred pronoun. So if they identify as a female, it is a crime to identify or to call them a male and not use female. And that, like, he was the biggest outspoken voice in why that's dangerous, because doing that you're treading on some dangerous territory when you're making it a crime to tell people what they say or what names they use and what type of language to use. Making that a crime is absolutely tyrannical. It's communist. It's not communist, but it's definitely
Just wrong.
yeah, it's just plain wrong, honestly.
Can we get a recap? I already forgot. So you got Ben Carson, Ben Shapiro. Who's this last guy?
Jordan Peterson.
Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Dr.
Okay.
Jordan Peterson.
All right, who's number 4, Justin?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald
Okay.
Reagan. I mean,
Why's
come
that?
on. Come on, man. Ronald Reagan's an American hero, man. He's just, when you think of Ronald Reagan, you just think of America, dude. He's totally, God.
He is American.
Yeah, that is like, man, yeah.
Double R.
Good old Ronnie. My number 5 is Donald Trump, honestly. He's definitely, people tend to not look at the numbers and statistics and facts and just judge him on, what they don't like about him and whatnot. But Donald Trump is doing some revolutionary things. His first year in office had 81 major achievements that are having a lot of effect. They're having a lot of positive effect on this country. And so, that's my number 5, man.
There's top 5.
Yeah, that's
All
top 5,
Top
man.
5, Justin. Jake, I say it's your turn.
I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna list them in
Order.
chronological order
Yeah.
or anything. I'm just gonna talk about some people that I would identify as somebody that crafted my thinking politically. I'll start out with FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Great information already.
Emphasis on the D.
Wow.
He is, I think, a solid foundational figure, or has the principles that are a firm bedrock of liberal principles that at least I would identify with being worthy of consideration. So, like a type of New Deal Democrat, somebody that is actually for the people,
Absolutely.
for the worker.
Yeah.
I don't, necessarily, he has some negatives, but I want to focus on the positives. What he ushered in an era of regulation, but positive regulation. Not overreaching, but enough to keep monopolies under control.
Something
enough,
that's actually sustainable.
yeah, rules on Wall Street, so we avoid events, crisis type situations. All right, FDR, there's one.
Alright.
Yeah, let's go Bernie Sanders. That's good. That's relevant. It's new. It really echoes the same thoughts of FDR. It's the same thing. It's somebody that is for the worker, for the little guy, not somebody that just pretends to be for the little guy, but has actually had a track record in office 30 some years. I don't know however long it's been. It's been long enough. He's got gray hair. It's been a long time. He's proven himself. He is sinking into himself. I guarantee you he has shrunk 3 or 4 inches just from the pressure of holding up the middle class, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a top 3 because I'm having trouble even getting 2, to be honest, right off the top of
You
my
can do it,
head.
man.
I did not have previous preparation for what it's worth. I'm going to throw you a curveball. I'm going to go George Carlin on this one because I feel like a lot of liberal principles are embedded in his comedy. They are in your face. I don't think I really need to explain them. I couldn't do them justice even if I tried. So I will not try to do them justice. I'm sure anyone listening to this, viewing, what have you, familiar, you can look them up on the same medium you're looking this up.
Yeah.
So I would put George Carlin up there. Again, just to identify a few points, you know, just not to generally put him out there. One of his jokes was of U.S. foreign policy, of his, we always seem to be bombing brown people. That would be a quote from George Carlin that seems to ring true, I think.
It's raw, but it's not wrong. You know, it's...
Right. So, yeah, and I think he also fits in with that radical and revolutionary theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that and then get into some discussion.
All right, let's do
More
it.
fruitful.
So, all right, now that that's done.
First topic, school shooting.
Well, before we get into that, I
That's
just
a segue.
Damn, launching it off.
Yeah.
First
off
topic.
strong, baby.
before we get into that, I just want to know what. First off, Justin, what is your political view? Just like where do you stand? And same with you, Jake.
Yeah, I'm a conservative. I like to think of myself as a libertarian, but because I'm socially, fiscally, I'm conservative on all issues dealing with economy, foreign relations, anything that's not a social issue. I lean completely conservative, but there are social issues that I do not agree with conservatives on, some of which are gay marriage. Most conservatives that are very, very strong conservatives absolutely detest it, and I have no problem with, who you love. If two guys love each other, go ahead, do what you're gonna do, man. Love shouldn't be something that is controlled, especially by the government. They shouldn't be able to tell you who you can and can't marry and whatnot. Yeah. So, like that, like maybe the war on drugs is another. I feel like, it's pretty obvious the war on drugs has completely failed. It is costing us more money. It's costing, there's a lot of different issues that it has a major hand in keeping them alive. And it's just, I don't agree with conservatives on that. And there's a few other social issues that I, lean.
But mostly you're conservative.
Yeah, mostly I'm conservative.
Okay, gotcha. What about you, Jake?
Okay, yeah, I would identify myself as a liberal, although I feel like that term has taken some flack,
Yeah.
probably deservedly so.
Yeah.
Over the
definitely.
past, I don't know, however so long, 5-7 years maybe.
But your ideals are equal.
Right.
Okay.
So I wouldn't identify myself necessarily as a progressive, but I would identify myself as a liberal.
I think a lot of liberals are moving towards the independent side at this point. But,
I mean,
I don't know.
And I could run down a few just quick bullet
Yeah, go
points.
for it.
Let's go on the fiscal side of things. Economically, I believe in a progressive tax code, aggressively progressive tax code, not this joke of a tax code that we call progressive. It's not really progressive. If you look at the history of the tax code, people used to pay widely different margins depending on how much you earned. Now it's basically everybody's in the same bracket. I think it's 30 to 90,000. You can check that out.
All right, we'll check that.
30,000 to 90,000 pay the same tax. Last time I checked, that's just about everybody.
This is gonna be an exciting episode, man.
Why are we paying the same tax rate?
So I'm just going to go ahead and run through the tax rate for individuals in 2018. If you make between $9,526 to $38,700, you will have a 12% tax. If you make between $38,701 to $82,500, which is most people in America, you will be taxed 22%. That's a 10% jump. Just so if anyone didn't catch that, it's a 10% jump between the first two tax
Nominal.
If you make between $82,501 to $157,500, you will be taxed 24%. That's a 2% jump, just in case anyone didn't catch that. If you make between $157,501 to $200,000, you will have a 32% tax. So that's about an 8% jump. So the
So
largest
what's that
jump
like
here.
bracket?
What's up?
32 to 80.
38,700 to 82,500 is.
All right, let's be
20
generous. Let's call it
22%.
40 to 80.
Okay.
The majority of people make between $40,000 and $80,000. Why are we all paying the same tax rate?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so then let's shift over to social policy, which we probably both agree on.
Yeah,
With
I mean,
gay marriage and probably legalization of marijuana.
yeah, absolutely.
Drug war, you
yeah,
touched on
nationally, definitely it needs to be federally legal.
Yeah.
Absolutely marijuana. And yeah, so yeah, definitely I'd say we have the same social views for sure.
I don't know what you would even consider a liberal foreign policy, but I would classify my foreign policy as more of a Jacksonian approach, an isolationist, intervening only when necessary and strongly when necessary. That is how I would identify my foreign policy. And I think that gives you a pretty good encapsulation of my views.
Absolutely.
And then I think as we go into these
Yeah.
topics further, you'll get a better idea of where I
Exactly.
stand.
I just wanted to get that out of the
Good
way.
intro.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so John, as John was saying from before, so previously in previous episodes we had talked about school shootings and
Every episode, I think.
yeah, pretty much we
Yeah,
talked about it a little
every
bit.
episode, yeah.
But the only reason why we've been talking about it lately is just because it's been happening so much, and
Yeah.
you know, since the last episode, another school shooting happened.
What do you
so
know?
yeah, I mean, we pretty much gave our thoughts on school shootings and
You
got
did
two
discuss
perspectives, huh?
Yeah.
last episode.
Yeah, we discussed it
Yeah.
in depth. Yeah, well,
Okay.
in as depth as
No
we.
question. When was your guys'
so.
last podcast? You remember the date?
2 weeks ago, I'd say.
yeah, it'll be out.
Well, so not only did a school shooting happen, but also another school shooting was averted due to a resource officer that was armed on school property. He was able to deter the shooter before the shooter was able to wound anybody and kill anybody. So I'd say that's definitely worth mentioning. It wasn't really in the news too much. Kind of funny how, yeah, exactly. Kind of funny how someone who just saved a bunch of kids' lives.
But
they're
that's not what makes the news for the most part. Nothing as far as like media attention is concerned. Only you
That's
know.
more of a comment on the media than it is
Yeah.
on school shootings in general. I think that it's good that officer did his job right, but that's.
And
more
but
of a
it's
comment on
it's
media.
definitely worth mentioning that you know that police officer did. I don't know much about it, but you said he basically. What did he do? Shoot somebody that was about to hit?
So at Dixon High School in Illinois,
Mhm.
a senior came in there and was going to shoot up the graduation. They were having a graduation rehearsal.
Okay.
Graduation was about a week later, I think, and he planned to do that, and so he fired shots into the gymnasium where they were rehearsing, and as the as the shots were heard, he ran. The Officer Dallas ran through the halls, confronted the shooter, was able to get the shooter to run out the door, chased him down. The shooter threw shots at him, and he shot back at the shooter, wounding him, not fatally, but enough to be for him to be taken into custody. And that goes to show right there, because it kind of leads into the whole school shootings
Yeah.
and things I feel could help prevent them, or at least help
Minimalize it.
minimize them as much as possible, is the fact of armed Good Samaritans with guns, or armed officers, armed security. Definitely not armed teachers. That's where I draw the line. A teacher should not be having to worry about, using a gun to protect students. But there should be security on school property with guns.
Definitely.
I
I personally think
I mean,
so.
yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
There should be someone that is trained to immediate or take down situations that come across as violent or life threatening, and they should be armed. And so
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think that, what do you think about creating barriers for people with mental health issues to getting firearms?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's something. I mean, people that are mentally ill are not sane in the mind. They're not completely. It's not. I didn't mean sane in the mind. I mean, they're not completely solid. you know what I mean? They're not, their mental health is, they have issues with their mental health that could greatly affect their judgment when, you know, when using a firearm. There's a lot of things that you have to be a completely mentally healthy, responsible individual to be armed with a gun. I mean, to, you know, if you want to prevent accidents and whatnot, you need to be sane and you need to be, yeah. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Just to give a quick statistic here, about 18.5% of Americans experience a mental illness in a given year.
Oh, absolutely.
So about 20% of Americans experience mental illness in a
What
year.
do you think we should do for school shootings?
If I could interject, this is
Please.
interesting.
This is
Because I am going to out conservative and libertarian probably anybody in this room on this issue at least. I'm going to be a bad liberal here. Going to disappoint anybody rooting for any liberal positions here. But so we're talking about school shootings, correct?
Yeah, what do you think would help stop or minimize it? I mean, we can't stop everything, but at least minimize.
Just to recap, that's what the last podcast was.
We've covered it. We've covered it every time.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, we've hit the topic.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, well,
Just
at the
because
risk
of-
of completely undermining your last episode, I wonder why we're talking about school shootings at all, really. Because,
That's something I touched on too, actually.
okay, well, that's interesting, that's
Yeah.
good. Because I don't see it as an issue even worth discussing at all. I mean, how many people are affected by school shootings? I personally ran the numbers on this. You could probably look it up because you're going to get bad numbers anyway. It's something like 9 people die every year from school shootings.
Where did you get, like, do you know can you cite the sources for that information that you collected?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was Wikipedia.
okay.
I'm not proud of that.
Nine total.
Every year,
It's
annually.
an average.
An average
At
of
what
about,
point does the average start?
an average of about 4 shootings every year, and an average of about 9 people die every year from school shootings since Columbine.
Since Columbine.
And so when you're taking an average, though, does that, are they taking the total number of kids that have died against the total number of years there has been since Columbine? Because some years didn't have school shootings, you know, so that's going to have a factor in the overall, like that'll give you a number that is kind of misleading. The reason they're talking about school shootings is because there are a lot happening right now. And the last one that just happened last week, 11 kids, was it 11 kids died?
Yeah,
11
10
kids.
injured.
And then the Parkland shooting, that's quite a number of other kids. So the reason they're talking about it is because it's going on right now. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's very salacious, it's high profile, it gets lots of views, that's why everybody hears about it. People died in a school, it's news every single time. That's why it seems like a much bigger deal. So just to recap, about 10 people, to be very generous, or, you know, obviously it's very tragic, every life is precious.
Just to confirm your thing here, it looks like there's somewhere between 0 and 5 a year for most years. So I'm not gonna do that math and average it all out for you. But it seems like that's a good estimation. I believe that you did the math there, and I'll pretty much take your word for it. The highest I've seen is 33, and that was, I believe, in 2006.
Okay.
What about the last 3 years? Can we get to the last 3 years?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
That'd be great.
Keep
Okay,
going.
yeah,
But-
keep going, Jake.
Yeah.
Let's be really generous. I said 10 people die every year. Let's just say 100 people die every year.
Yeah.
That's 10 times what it actually is. So let's just pretend. So let's compare. What do 100 people die of every year? About 100 people die every year of trees falling on them. About 100 people die every year from falling out of bed. So should we put regulations on every single bed should be installed with a bar so people don't fall out of bed? Should we do that? I mean, we could save lives, but I feel like that's too much regulation.
In the last 3 months, it looks like about 16 people have died from school shootings.
Anyways.
Yeah, it seems like
You think
just
we're
an
making a bigger deal?
inconsequential topic.
Yeah, you think we're making a bigger deal out of the situation?
Very high profile, very low impact.
I mean, it's about kids getting killed at school. That's a pretty, obviously they're not going to put, people falling out of bed on the news and whatnot, but there's a reason why that they're being talked about. It's a horrible thing that's happening. Kids are being shot at school. Where
It is more traumatic.
It is definitely traumatic, but I feel like it's definitely something that needs to be. I don't think it needs to be discussed.
To be fair, having a tree fall on you is also traumatic.
Absolutely is traumatic, but it's not something that it's not a crime. You know what I mean? That's not something that is illegal.
It's not preventable.
And it's definitely not preventable. But
OSHA would have something to say about that.
About the trees.
The trees, yeah, it's preventable. No, I'm just kidding.
Bang, what's going on? Sorry, I'm just interjecting.
No, that's good. I mean, I think I would bet we're probably mostly in agreement on that we don't really need to do much about it because it's not a big issue.
Do you guys think that maybe media coverage is like an unhealthy thing for school shootings? Like maybe that it is like a motivation for some kids that are having those thoughts. Like maybe that actually would inspire them. Like maybe
That's
I'll get
what I was
famous.
talking
I've heard that brought up, but I just feel, I can't get in the heads of these shooters, and know what they feel and what they're thinking, but that just seems like a very, doesn't seem like really that satisfactory of something, like to get popular by the media and to get covered by the media and to get attention to your name. I don't feel like that's a worthy reason to go shoot up a school. I feel like these kids have, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But I just want to prove a point. Could anybody in this room name the Columbine shooters?
Nope.
No.
One name?
Nope.
First name, last name?
Absolutely not.
So what are we talking about?
That's interesting.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So that's your
Points.
stance. That's interesting. I think obviously the reason why we talk about school shooting is just because it's, for one, it's kids, and kids obviously they're going to school. It should be a peaceful, safe place for kids to be at without having to worry about any harm done to them. And the reason why it gets such big media attention is because these kids are basically going to school defenseless, and they shouldn't have to worry about somebody crazy going into their school and shooting. So I think that's why obviously the media is covering it so much. And do I think that it should be talked about as much as it is? Probably not. But at the same time, I do think we do need to cover it at least a little bit to try to find a solution to, I guess, possibly stop it. Even if it's just saving 10 lives.
I have a question. So with the 100 thing, right? So 100 people die every year per minute.
Let's just say.
Oh, let's just say.
Being real
generous.
Theoretically.
Okay, yeah. So that's not even close, right? But so if the real problem isn't that it's happening and that we're like losing innocent children's lives from this, then is it a problem at all if it starts happening at an increasing rate? Is that alarming, or is that just something that happens with increased population?
No, that is alarming, I would say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a symptom of a larger problem.
So then the question becomes,
Is
is it
it
happening
becoming
at an increasing rate
Yeah,
right
is it
now?
becoming a
Or is it
problem?
just that the media has covered it more than they used to, or they were capable of
Me
doing?
personally, I think
I wouldn't know, I don't have the statistics on that. Do either of you have statistics?
And our statistics.
We could look that up,
happen to
yeah.
Just,
So let's find out if they're happening at an increasing rate. So just to keep that going then, let's presume that this is happening, just for the sake of the people out here who might think that
It's
is happening at
increasing.
an increasing rate.
It's
Okay,
increasing.
so
Let's just assume that, because
so-
it probably is.
okay, so under the assumption that it is increasing and therefore it is the symptom of a larger problem, what is the problem and how would both of you solve that problem? And we'll start with you, Justin.
all right.
And I'll find the statistic right
I
now.
think it's
way
definitely.
to reel it in.
Yeah, there you go. It's definitely the symptom of a larger problem. That larger problem I feel is the mental health of these kids. Honestly, and that can be handled in a lot of different ways. But a lot of things that could improve that would be parents parenting better, parents disciplining their kids better. That's definitely something that needs to be worked on. Parents getting their kids involved. A lot of it has to do with the parents. That's what develops, when a kid develops, they take after their experiences and the way nature and nurture, you know, and the parents have
The
biggest part of that, you know, they have the biggest hand in raising kids. And so if these kids are having mental health problems, the parents are obviously going to be the ones that can do the best job of, you know, starting to prevent these things and helping kids get their mental health back in order. Also the schools, you know, definitely the schools can, you know, do their part. You know, the Parkland shooting, the FBI was alerted something like 31 times about this kid. You know, they were getting tips all over, the police department was. You know, the FBI had gotten tips that this was going to happen. This kid had cops, they sent cops to this kid's house, and, you know, the cops and also the Child Protective Services decided that he wasn't a threat. He wasn't a threat to himself, he wasn't a threat to others, he wasn't, there was no reason for him to be detained, taken away from his parents and whatnot, but yet this happened, he did it. So there's obviously a failure, you know, in handling these type of situations. There's a lot that can be done, and it's just a failure all around the board. I like I said, you know, parents can do better, the schools can do better, the law enforcement, the people that are responsible for these kids' well-being and deciding, you know, what's best for them. There's a lot of places where I can get better.
Mm-hmm. Your two main focus, you think, should be starting with the parents and then starting with maybe police officers working on.
I'd say the schools.
The school.
Have a more important part than the law enforcement.
Like a hardening of the target, the school as a target, like.
I mean, also because the school was warned about this kid many times. You know, he brought knives to school. There was a lot of alarming things, and the school didn't do their part. You know, a lot of these kids were bullied. You know, a lot of these shooters are bullied. Kids that got bullied. You know, bullying is a horrid thing. I don't understand why a person would want to hurt another person just for the sake of doing it. You know, to get enjoyment. It just doesn't make sense to me. Bullying is something that can really screw up a kid for life. And most of these kids, when you look at the facts, they were bullied. They were kids that got picked on a lot and whatnot. Schools can do a better part in preventing bullying. Bullying, you know, you're not gonna stop bullying. It's gonna happen. But I feel like the schools could do a better part in, you know, minimalizing the type of things that happen at the school. That's what they're responsible for. You know, when the kids are at the school has authority over them. They take over the control of their rights. You know, when you go to a school, you're pretty much, the school is given responsibility of your rights. So they're responsible for anything that your parents would normally be responsible for while you're at the school. So yeah.
Okay.
I feel it.
So then, Jake, the same question to you. If this increase is alarming to you, then what should we do about it? And
Well, for one, the increase is not alarming to me because I'm far more concerned with a lot of people's lives affected over 10 a year, 100 a year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a very small portion of the population, so I would prescribe to more of a utilitarian approach of trying to do the greatest good for the greatest number, and any attention toward this issue is focused away from more important issues, like the vast majority, or not a vast majority, but a vast number of people in this country that are impoverished, and they don't have any reasonable way to get out of poverty. That's far more of an injustice than, you know, as tragic as it is, 10, 100 people dying every year from gun violence in a school. Even if it is in a school, a lot of people face much tougher times in their daily life because they don't have any access to economic opportunity.
So I'm wondering what you alluded to earlier, what that was, because you did say, if I recall, that you did say it was like the symptom of a larger issue. What is that larger issue?
Yeah, the larger issue is all about economic frustration, distress, anxiety. We do not have an economy that works for the majority of the people. It doesn't work for even a tiny majority of the people. It works for maybe 10, 20% of the top of the population. And you just have 80% struggling to get by. They really don't have any chance. You have nepotism, you have entrenched wealth, and extreme entrenched wealth, and that is very hard to get past. And I think focusing our attention on providing ladders of opportunity for those on the bottom of society will be have a far greater impact than reducing whatever could be on gun violence.
So, you were saying though that the school shootings and the reason for those happening was a symptom of a larger issue. So you're saying that the kids that are getting, being the shooters in these school shootings are the ones being affected by the economic frustration?
That's actually far. That actually couldn't be further from the truth. Because a weird thing about these school shootings is it always happens in an area of the country that is very economically well off.
Yeah, so
it's in suburbia and upper middle class.
So if I understood what John was saying, right, you were asking, because he said school shootings, right, were a symptom of a larger problem.
I believe that is what you said. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I didn't respond to that well. That's not, economic distress probably isn't the cause of raised school shootings. I would say, okay, if I was going to identify specific to school shootings, I think that's more amped up because of social media and the way that people have to produce this sort of publicized version of themselves through Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. You have to present this best possible version of yourself. It's not a real version of yourself.
It's not a realistic version.
It's an idealized version of yourself, and one can never realize that ever. So there's more depression and anxiety based on that.
So mental health is the larger issue at hand.
Probably, yeah. But at the same time, we need to be conscious of, to not demonize mental health, because a lot of people that experience mental health, they're much more likely to be a victim of violence and actually commit any.
I think we should talk about first the tax code, but also I want to get into like even a broader topic, like what do you think America is right now, and do you think we're moving forward as far as being the America that, I guess Donald Trump would say, like the America that we used to, as far as someone can come in here, own a piece of property, single household that just works one job, owns that property, pays it off, and then, gives it on to the next person.
The American dream?
That's the wealth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, as far as that, do you think where we are right now,
farther away
from
from America?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, definitely.
And obviously tax codes and just everything has to do with that. So
first of all, America depends on who you ask. When many different people have many different perspectives and views on when America was actually great. America has not been great for a lot of people in the past. So I don't really know. But as for like the American dream, as for being the immigrants that came here, from their home countries way back when, and worked a job that they didn't really understand. They were trying to learn the language, all that stuff, and being able to build it into, build their wealth and build it into a life. I don't think it's a little. Things are getting very, very congested. There's a lot of people in the game now. That's not something you can't, like, the minimum wage is too low. There are a lot of things that cost too much money. The housing, it's going to be very hard to buy a house in the near future. It's already, you look at all these homes that are, the new homes that are being built.
Keep going, you're going to think I'm going to think you're a Democrat. On the G.o.p. tax bill, I don't know what the official name for it is. It's not the G.o.p. tax bill because that would be too transparent. Everything's given a fluffy name. It's not just the Republicans, by the way. Patriot Act, super patriotic. So G.o.p. tax bill, I think it was sold as a middle tax, or a middle class tax.
A tax for the middle class that would benefit the middle class.
Right. So it was sold as a middle class tax cut.
I'm looking it up.
Which I don't know, at best as an insult to my intelligence, and at worst destroying the American economy day by day. You cannot, this is really a supply side versus demand side economics argument that's been going on for decades. And simply, the economy is not better when rich people get a whole bunch more money. When rich people get a whole bunch more money, they usually put it in a bank or into some kind of economic product or financial product like stocks or bonds or CDs or what have you.
This is why
so
they're
that
rich.
grows.
Really quick, the name of the tax plan was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I'd really love to know what the fuck it had to do with jobs. Because it seemed to be about giving rich people a whole bunch more money,
Yeah.
which does not benefit the economy. They put it in the bank, they put it into financial instruments, products. And you know what happens when you give poor people money? They fucking spend it. Because poor people are real good at spending money. Because
That's
they
why
don't
they're
have
poor.
any.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
why
have
they're
any.
poor.
They're not
So as
used
soon
to
as
the
they
money.
get it, they spend it.
Exactly.
And that's good for the economy.
So how does that help the economy? The people with the most amount of money who have amassed the most wealth are not spending it as much as poor people are.
Well, when poor people spend their money, they spend it at
Local businesses or just businesses.
Walmart, their
Yeah.
local convenience store, Safeway, around here, that's local, a national business, Kroger's, Fred and Meyer, I don't know,
Trader
different,
Joe's.
Piggly Wiggly if you're in the South.
Yeah.
You know, they spend it at places. If you are a rich person, you spend it, what, on a whole bunch of stock of Apple? I don't see how that's helping anybody.
Okay,
Mhm.
there we go. Some great points made by Jake there.
So the reason it's called the Jobs Act is because there are major there's tax breaks given to corporations for creating new jobs. They're giving companies tax breaks so that they can give back more to their employees and create more jobs. There's a lot of different things that was outlined in the bill that inspires and I'd say kind of jumpstarts creating more jobs. I mean, there's Donald Trump's created, what is it? How many million was it? In his first year, 1.7 million new jobs. That's a lot of new jobs compared to what we had in the Obama presidency.
Is it though?
I definitely think so. In the
Fact
first
check.
year,
I'd
year
like
one,
to know
year
Fact check,
one,
get on
I'd
it.
like to know the average number of jobs created by President Obama throughout his entire presidency, because year one is really
That's
an
true.
unrealistic statistic because he was left with a economy in shambles, and we really don't know, or we really know that the economy doesn't happen overnight. When a president comes into office, it takes time for his policies to be enacted and actually take effect. So
unless they're actually effective policies. You know, the big thing with Democrats' policies, there's a lot of emphasis on spending money that they'll take care of later. I mean, if you look at the spending during Obama's presidency, it was absolutely ridiculous. And they gave
what
that
was the money spent on that?
a lot of
Like economic
social
stimulus and
a lot of social programs that aren't doing much for the economy. Things like D.a.c.a.
What is DACA? I'm not aware.
executive act known as D.a.c.a basically provided temporary citizenship for people that came to the United States under 18, when they were under 18.
Good to know.
Came as kids.
Boom. DACA defined. All right, continue, gentlemen.
So what? Yeah. So the social programs.
So D.a.c.a didn't cost the taxpayer any money. It was free. All he did was change the law. He said, hey, you're already here, you can stay. If anything, it made them pay more taxes. It probably added to
Well, the thing with
economy,
D.a.c.a
if
is
anything.
D.a.c.a had another act kind of tied in with it, which was D.a.c.a but for the parents.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So since their kids were born here, they're allowed to get temporary
Benefits.
amnesty and benefits. That came with the amnesty. You know, they're
Okay, I see
able
what you're
to.
saying. Benefits.
And those
that's a legit argument.
Yeah, and so I just feel like a lot of the social programs that were, that the Obama administration, no one can deny, they spent a large portion of money on social programs that I just have not seen any real benefit to the economy for any of
Except for
them.
those 1.7 million jobs. I mean, other than that.
So the U.S. There's not a whole lot of data on this yet because Trump has not finished his presidential term. But the U.S. economy added about 2.1 million jobs in 2017, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The question is whether Trump, Obama, or any other political figure deserves the credit. That's the real matter of debate.
So that's even higher than your statistic. 2.1 million jobs,
Yeah.
It's more than 1.7 for sure.
which is laudable. That's a good thing. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
It's jobs for Americans is never going to be a bad thing. That's for sure.
And I wouldn't even argue that Trump's policies inspired consumer confidence. I wouldn't even argue that.
Well,
What I'm arguing mainly is the sustainability of a policy that gives away tons of money to the rich, to the richest.
a lot of the people that own these corporations and these businesses and these companies are people that are, very high. They have a lot of income. They make a lot of money.
If only they were high in more way than one.
When you give business owners more money and more tax breaks and whatnot, I feel like that will inspire them to try and create more jobs, try and go and start more businesses, start more companies.
For something more progressive. Okay, here's an argument I love. This is a great argument to end things on. Okay, so the whole argument is, if you tax rich people, they aren't going to be incentivized to work. If you tax them so high, they aren't going to be incentivized to work. There's people in this country that make $10,000 an hour. That's an insult to you and everybody in this room. $10,000 an hour. If we tax them 90%, they still make $1,000 an hour. 90% you can tax them, they still make $1,000 an hour, right? Why get out of bed for less than a G, right? Why get out of bed for less than a G? You tell me we can't spend more money on the poor people and raising them to a higher standard of living and maybe live up to the ideals that the founders had in mind? I think it would be pretty easy. $1,000 I think is enough per hour.
Okay, there it is, Jake. Justin, what do you think?
All right, in rebuttal to that, a lot of people, most of the 1% in this country pay over 50% of the taxes. These people, when you say, that they're going to not be, if you tax them a lot, they're not going to be incentivized to work or whatnot, that's not the main concern. The main concern is a lot of these people that own these corporations and these businesses and whatnot, if you tax the crap out of them and tax the crap out of their businesses, they're going to take it elsewhere. It's not something that's going to help the, taxing the rich to an extreme amount is not going, I don't feel like it's going to help anybody. I just don't feel like it's going to help anybody to pay for things like Bernie Sanders, his college, pay for kids' college, the universal health care. You think you can achieve that by taxing the absolutely richest people in this country? They're just going to leave. You think that they're going to stay for that?
The rich people?
Yeah.
In the United States?
Yes.
With the amount of, who else are they going to sell their products to?
I mean, a lot of
South America? Mexico?
No.
China? I don't think they have enough money to buy Fords.
That's if they take their business elsewhere.
300 million of the wealthiest consumers. 300 million people of the wealthiest consumers, they aren't going anywhere. They need us way more than we need them.
So just a quick thing here. The top 1% in the U.S. 2016, according to the IRS, paid 39.5% of the U.S. taxes. Just throwing that.
Close. It's pretty
It's
close.
a lot.
It's
a lot.
about
They
40%.
pay
It's close to about half.
Oh yeah,
50% is half. And I mean, you can't say that they could be taxed higher and whatnot, but they're a big factor in the economy in general, in keeping the economy sustained and whatnot.
Or ruining it.
And you could say that, definitely. I just don't see, what would you propose by taxing, what would you propose they spend the money on that they're taxing the ultra rich people? What type of things would help lower class, the poor?
What's up, guys? This is BXC23, and that was part 1 of a 2-part series of the Time Capsule Podcast, episode 4. In the next episode, you'll get to see Jake and Justin really debate about political issues such as immigration control, the Muslim ban, the G.o.p. tax bill, taxes in general. They're also going to debate about Donald Trump and his presidency. Is Donald Trump helping or hurting America? Well, that's what they're going to be talking about from a Republican's point of view and from a Democrat's point of view, along with other political issues that they'll be talking about. So if you like part 1 of episode 4, you're really going to enjoy part 2 of episode 4, because that's when the real debate begins, and that's when they're really going to dive into these topics. So like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see right when the video drops. Thanks for watching this episode, and thanks for supporting the Time Capsule podcast. I'll see you guys in part 2 of episode 4. Peace.